There are places that were never meant to be visited, places that carry echoes of suffering, of ancient presences, nearly forgotten, but never truly absent. This is the story of Lucas, and how a simple stop at a bathroom dragged him into an abyss from which he would never return. The clock at the bus terminal read 2:47 a.m. The last bus had left hours ago, leaving the terminal submerged in a damp, stifling gloom. The few lights flickered intermittently, as if struggling against an invisible force, trying to extinguish them. Lucas walked across the empty lobby, the sound of his footsteps echoing far too loudly in that morbid silence. The air was thick, mixing, the scent of old fuel, rust, and something else. A sweet, rancid odor, like meat left rotting under the sun for days. The security guard inside the glass booth looked up for only a second. His eyes were sunken, bloodshot, as if he hadn't slept in a very long time. Without looking directly at Lucas, he murmured, "The bathroom's open, but don't stay too long." The warning sounded more like a lament than advice. Lucas hesitated for a moment, but his physical discomfort pushed him forward. He needed to use the restroom, nothing more. As he approached, the corridor seemed to narrow. The walls, covered with old tiles, wept dark droplets that slowly trickled down, as if the building itself was bleeding from within. A distant scratching echoed somewhere, perhaps a rat, or something worse. The bathroom door was slightly ajar, creaking softly under the breath of a non-existent breeze. Behind it, the darkness seemed alive, pulsing. Lucas cautiously pushed the door open. A sharp creak filled the air like the cry of a wounded animal. The bathroom reeked of stale dampness and rot. Many tiles were shattered, the flickering lights spasmed frenetically. That's when he saw the writing on the wall, marked with what looked like dried blood. "She doesn't like visitors." A cold shiver crawled up his spine. He took a deep breath and walked into one of the stalls. The dripping faucets echoed like small hammer strikes inside his head. The silence wasn't empty, it was dense, almost tangible, as if the air itself was filled with invisible presences. Suddenly, a subtle noise, the dragging of something soft across the ceramic floor, came from the stall next to his. Lucas froze. Please," whispered a voice. But it wasn't an ordinary voice. It was as if two voices spoke at the same time, one childlike and high-pitched, the other raspy and guttural, a dissonant mixture impossible to imitate. His eyes, almost involuntarily, slowly lowered toward the floor, and then he saw it. Fingers. But they weren't human fingers. They were long, disproportionate, with joints bending at unnatural angles, like insect limbs. The skin was pale, almost translucent, with dark veins pulsing underneath. Strips of flesh hung from cracked black nails. Before he could pull back, the fingers touched him. The touch was cold, slimy, like the skin of a corpse recently pulled from stagnant waters. The pressure was firm, but not aggressive. Almost as if they were caressing him, or claiming him. Lucas stumbled backward, crashing into the sink. That's when he noticed the reflection in the mirror. But the reflection wasn't his. In the cracked glass, he saw a female figure. Long black hair covered her face except for her mouth. An unnatural opening stretched all the way to her ears, filled with fine, sharp teeth. There were no eyes, only dark, hollow sockets that seemed to pull him into an endless abyss. Her mouth opened even wider, but not to scream. She laughed. It was a wet, organic sound, like flesh being slowly torn apart. The laughter echoed through every corner of the bathroom, as if the place itself was mocking him. "You stayed," the creature whispered. Suddenly, the faucets burst open, but it wasn't water. It was a thick, black liquid like tar, exhaling an unbearable stench of decomposition. Every drop that hit the sink revealed something disturbing, Faces, deformed faces, wide, terrified eyes, mouths open in silent screams. All those who, like Lucas, had entered and never left. The lights failed. Darkness swallowed everything. Lucas felt hands grabbing him from all sides. From the floor, the walls, the ceiling, voices whispered his name, repeating it in a macabre chorus, growing louder until they exploded into a single scream. And then, silence. The next morning, the security guard found the bathroom door broken open. There was no sign of Lucas. In the stall, dried blood spread in grotesque circular patterns on the floor. And on the mirror, written with bloody fingers, the final message, "Now he is mine." Gabriel worked as a delivery driver. That winter night had been especially long. Constant rain, cold wind, and deserted streets in the early hours of the morning. It was past 3 a.m. when he suddenly felt an urgent need to use the bathroom. He spotted a small gas station still open. The yellow lights at the front flickered under the drizzle, and the attendant, a thin man with worn-out features, simply nodded toward the back. "The bathroom's back there. But be careful with the last stall." Gabriel frowned, not paying much attention to the warning. Probably just a joke, he thought. The path to the bathroom already showed signs of abandonment. The peeling walls, dirty floor, and moldy ceiling created an atmosphere of decay. The cold fluorescent lights flickered, casting shadows that seemed to breathe. As he pushed open the heavy bathroom door, the smell hit him like a slap. Old urine, rust, and something sweet, like rotting fruit. There were 3 stalls. The first, one was wide open, its door broken. The second had a clogged toilet and stagnant water, but the third was closed. There was no sound coming from it. No flushing, no breathing, no movement. Just absolute silence. Yet the latch trembled slightly, as if someone had just left or was about to open it. Gabriel tried to ignore it. He entered the first stall, but the discomfort was palpable. As he relieved himself, he couldn't stop glancing at the space. Beneath the closed third stall, that's when he noticed. From the gap below, something was leaking, a thick, dark liquid, almost black. It wasn't water. It lacked the typical shine of clean liquid. It was viscous, heavy, slowly tracing a winding path toward the drain. The air suddenly felt heavier. A faint humming began to fill the bathroom. Gabriel tried convincing himself it was just paranoia, but the liquid kept oozing, increasing. Then he saw it. Through a tiny crack on the side of the third stall door, an eye was staring at him. But it wasn't a human eye. It was far too large. The pupils were vertical, like those of a reptile. Around it, veins pulsed at a strange, independent rhythm. Gabriel froze. The latch began to turn slowly. Clack, clack. The handle creaked, trembling as if being tested by a hesitant hand. He quickly left the stall and tried to run, but his legs buckled. Terror consumed every muscle in his body. The lights were now flickering in a hysterical frenzy. In the mirror above the sink, something began to form on the stained surface. At first, dark blotches seemed to shape into words. "Inside here, you are. Never alone." The faucets burst open, spilling dark water, similar to the liquid from the store. Muffled screams seemed to echo from the pipes, as if voices of people trapped inside metal tubes. Clack! The door to the third stall finally opened, but there was no one, only black emptiness. A solid darkness, impossible to penetrate with the eyes. From within that shadow, 2 thin, pale arms, far too elongated to be human, emerged, moving like tentacles. They touched the floor, then the wall, then reached toward Gabriel. He sprinted toward the exit, feeling cold air behind him. Something was breathing on the back of his neck. As he reached the door, he looked back one last time. From the dark gap, dozens of eyes appeared, opening like macabre flowers. Eyes of all sizes, all fixed on him. The bathroom door slammed shut behind him. The attendant was still there, watching from a distance, as if he already knew the ending. "I warned you," he murmured. "They always try to escape when someone enters." Gabriel never used a public bathroom again, but even today, those who pass by that gas station at night swear they can hear soft knocks coming from inside. Soft knocks, as if someone is still in there, waiting. It was supposed to be just another night. Renata was leaving her hospital shift late, like she did every day. She was exhausted, her eyes heavy, her mind dulled by fatigue. As she passed by a rest area inside the bus terminal, physical discomfort. She urgently needed to use the restroom. The place was almost empty. Only the diner attendant, an older man with a blank expression, kept his eyes down, repeatedly washing his hands. He seemed tense, as if trying not to hear or see something. When Renata asked where the restroom was, he pointed with a trembling finger, never looking up. "Use the first 3, don't go into the 4th. The warning was dry, but she assumed. It was just some silly superstition or a grim end-of-shift joke. She wasn't impressed. The hallway leading to the restrooms was old, damp, with water dripping from exposed pipes. The sour smell of mold and ammonia filled the air, while the sound of her own footsteps echoed far too loudly in the suffocating silence. The numbered stall doors appeared as she approached. Stall 1, stall 2, stall 3, and there it was. Stall 4. The door was closed. There was something strange about it. The wood looked damp and swollen, as if it absorbed the humidity of the bathroom. Deep scratch marks crossed the doorframe. Renata shivered involuntarily, but she proceeded to the second stall and went in. Even inside, with the door locked, she felt a presence. The silence was heavy, not empty, but as if it were listening. That's when she noticed. The latch of stall 4 began to turn, slowly. Clack, clack. But no one else had entered the bathroom. The noise was followed by a faint creak. The door cracked open just a few centimeters. From the dark gap, something emerged. First, a finger, thin, almost cadaverous, with yellow, long, cracked nails. Then the outline of a hand gripped the doorframe, revealing swollen joints and grayish skin, stained like scorched ancient paper. Renata stared at the gap, unable to look away. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear her own blood in her ears. Then came a sound, whispers, but they weren't coming from the stall. They echoed from the pipes, the ceiling, the floor. Overlapping voices muttered incoherent things like a distorted ancient language. The air grew colder. In a panic, Renata stood up and tried to open her stall door, but it seemed jammed. The handle turned, but the door wouldn't budge, as if something outside was pressing against it, preventing her escape. The whispers grew louder. Now they formed phrases that echoed inside her mind. "You have entered. You cannot. Leave now. We are many. He has awakened." That's when something began crawling under the divider of stall 4. A face. Or something resembling a face. It was elongated, disproportionate, with wide, black, empty eyes. The mouth took up nearly half the face, filled with tiny, needle-sharp teeth. The skin glistened as if wet, yet cracked deeply as if dried out. The creature whispered in a childlike tone, but filled with something demonic. "I've waited so long. You came." Renata screamed with all her might. But the sound died inside the bathroom, as if the very walls swallowed her voice. The lights began to flicker violently, creating flashing bursts. With each flash, the face was closer. First a few meters away, then beside the door, then directly beneath it. The creature's hands began scratching the divider, producing a sharp, endless screech. Then everything went silent. The lights went out completely. For long seconds, there was only darkness and the sound of Renata's panicked breathing. Suddenly, the latch gave way. The door finally opened. She didn't think, she just ran. She stumbled down the hallway, crossed the empty diner, and didn't stop until she reached the wet street, gasping under the cold rain. The diner attendant was still there, washing his hands, never raising his eyes. He only murmured to himself, "She woke the room. Another one is with him now. They say stall 4 has remained closed ever since. But those who pass by late at night swear they still hear the latch turning on its own, as if the door is still waiting for the next visitor."